I'm a proud member of CAEF, one of the sponsors, one of the organizers for this event. I thank you for staying to the end. At one synagogue for high holidays, the rabbi said that he was going to hand out t-shirts for all those that stay. So anybody that didn't get a t-shirt, grab one on your way out. I'm also reminded of another story. You know, I've been doing anti-Semitism education for more years than gray hairs, I think I have. But one moment really struck me as I was talking to a group of students, and there happened to be a 6-year-old in the group. And I told them some stories that were, I thought, appropriate for 6-year-olds. And at the end, the little girl got up and she said to me, "So, there's still anti-Semitism?" "Yes." "And you've been working on it for many years?" "Yes." And then she looked at me with the sweetest little face with little tears forming, and she said, "I guess you're not doing a very good job." You know what? I'm determined. And that's one reason why I agreed to co-chair with Andrea Spindell the End Jew Hatred movement in Canada, and welcome our new help and our collaborators in this, because I don't want to see that 6-year-old girl who's now in her teens and have to say that things are even worse. End Jew Hatred is a dream. I don't know if we'll ever end it, but damn well sure that I'm going to do my best in my remaining years to make a dent in it. Okay, so my job here is to quickly run through some of the thoughts. Obviously, we're not going to solve the problems now, but what I want from everyone here and those that have to leave, and we will follow up with every single person, a commitment to work on some of these issues. You can choose what's of interest to you. There's lots to be done. As Brooke said, let's stick with the target and stick with it strong until we make a dent in it and move that bullet point. It's too important to that 6-year-old. It's too important to our kids. It's too important to all of us. So let me just run through this quickly. The first topic was countering anti-Semitism in our public schools, and Rabbi Corey has promised to talk more about it. But these are some of the things that we've been working on through CAEF and by extension End Jew Hatred Canada, which is, as I say, one of our major projects. So, and this largely is coming from Rabbi Corey's voice. So, directions from the Minister of Education. We heard from Minister Lecce. We don't want to be running to each board begging them to implement the IHRA definition. The minister has that power to tell the boards to get the lead out, get their tochases, if I may use the phrase of the day, and get moving on it. Our kids don't have time to waste. We've heard the stories. We don't want any more of it. And the IHR definition, which, by the way, if you want to see the wording, the Rabbi Corey has some handouts at his desk. From that, there has to be some responsibility, and we suggest that part of the responsibility is a mechanism for mandatory reporting for the keeping of stats. It can't be, as we too often know, that these incidents are buried under the rug, that they don't want us to know that there's been graffitis at the schools, or a kid is being harassed, or pennies thrown at them, or whatever. So we're going to be calling and working on the concept of mandatory reporting and statistics, much like other ministries do. As a Crown director, I had to report on multiculturalism activities. The mechanism is known to government. We are working on getting the Ontario College of Teachers to produce anti-Semitism advisory, much like they've done with other communities. I don't go into all that. And again, this relates to the DEI kind of problem, but demand that the school boards have clear policies about who they're bringing into the schools to educate our kids. This has been a major problem. We have written on a number of matters to it, and especially at York Regional Board, we got the pushback that there really is no problem, but there is. And as we've heard from Brooke and from Alexandra and from Adar, if we come together, our voices can be strong, even though we are only a small percentage. We can turn to our allies, like Rahil Raza and others. We can turn to our politicians that are listening to us and demand that these policies and that action be taken. So the other aspect that you heard about was anti-Semitism in the secondary school settings. Now, here's an action that we've all been talking about. How many of you know about the mural that's up at York University that was supposed to be up for a very short period of time? Donors have, I see a few of us know about it. Donors have tried to say that they don't want it up, but they haven't really been serious about it, and they keep handing money to the university. The university uses the excuse that it's a student-led activity. Let's resolve that this year we're going to get that damn mural, excuse my language, but we're going to get that language down. There's an action item, clear and precise. Of course, we saw that the IHRA definition was rejected by the University of Toronto, which we heard is one of the most problematic spots. So we want to see that the IHRA definition is adopted, but more so implemented at all levels, with clear reporting mechanisms again. And something that we're going to be working on now in partnerships with a couple of groups, including Stand With Us, DARA, which are Doctors Against, is it racism and anti-Semitism? We're going to lead a campus campaign to declare clearly and precisely that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, because that's what's plaguing our students on campus. Next slide. You heard some two amazing speakers on this. This involves a campaign to require the enforcement of existing rules and laws, from the criminal code to the bylaws of our city. To do this, we have to do some educating. I'm suggesting we have to organize personal meetings with and public writing campaigns, even though that might not be the priority, but just like with Cooney, we have to make it clear to our politicians that this isn't acceptable. There are other alternatives, such as showing up and demonstrating with end-Jew hatred signs with our allies. And of course, something the City of Toronto has been reluctant to, even though there's been some promises, but the IHR definition has not been actually formally adopted by the City of Toronto. There are, I believe Vaughan actually has adopted, if I'm not mistaken. City of Toronto, which is obviously a major source of anti-Semitic rallies, needs to finally move on that. So that's going to be an area of activity. And finally, I think there's one more slide, right? So Michael Tepper and Ari Bluff, they talked about DEI as a source of anti-Semitism. And here, it was already suggested that FOI, which is the Freedom of Information requests, are an important tool. There's also complaints to professional bodies. We had one speaker talking about engineers. There's all kinds of professional bodies that can hear these complaints. And this is something that we have been working on through the Haneni Project, but that's demand that anti-Semitism, including anti-Zionism, is an integral part of all DEI training. We heard from a couple of speakers that that's not happening. We've been looking particularly at the social work aspect, but this applies, as we've heard, across the board. To many of us, we had a good friend in the principal, Richard. I've always mispronounced his last name, and he's not here to correct me. Richard built Bilkstow. He was an amazing supporter to us, appeared on a couple of our webinars, was the victim of harassment at a DEI training. We, in his name, in his honor, but for the good of our community, must see clear policies, vetting trainers that are engaged in this subject area with clear consequences, as Brooke reminded us, when lines are crossed. And from time to time we hear about bad actors. I'm not going to name some of them that we regularly follow. Some of you will have know some of them. More will come up in the future. But when we do hear of a bad actor, we have to act on it. We have to act boldly, precisely, with the target of the right professional body that deals with them. So, in summary, a lot of work to be done. We can't do it without each and every one of you, so please join us. Let's make it a fruitful year ahead. May it be a safe and happy year for everybody, but let's commit to making a difference.